No secretary ever lasted a full week working for the Sicilian Mafia boss until the clumsy one showed up and accidentally destroyed his office in the first 5 minutes. Before we get to how Emma Hanford turned a simple job interview into what can only be described as a natural disaster with a college degree, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Because what happens next involves a shattered, priceless antique, perfect comedic timing, and a mafia boss who's about to meet the only person in New York who isn't afraid of him. Spoiler alert. It's not because she's brave, it's because she's too distracted talking to herself to notice how dangerous he is. The fifth secretary in 6 days was packing her desk. It wasn't the dignified kind of packing where you carefully wrap your framed photos and say goodbye to colleagues. It was the panicked, trembling hands kind of packing where you just shove everything into a cardboard box and pray you can escape before the tears start. "You're fired," Cassio Pisano had said, his voice carrying the kind of cold finality usually reserved for execution orders. He hadn't even looked up from his computer screen. "Human resources will process your severance. Close the door on your way out." Her crime? She'd answered his office phone on the 4th ring instead of the 3rd. That was it. 4 rings instead of 3. Welcome to Pisano Global, the most terrifying office in Manhattan. The 60th floor of the Meridian Tower was a monument to cold perfection, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River, marble floors so polished you could see your reflection judging you back. Furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, not an office, probably because some of it actually did. Everything was white, black, or chrome. No color, no warmth, no soul. The employees moved through the space like ghosts, speaking in whispers, making eye contact with no one. They called it the Ice Palace. They called Cassio Pisano the Reaper. Not to his face, obviously. No one was that suicidal. Cassio Pisano, 33 years old, CEO of Pisano Global, a risk management and strategic consulting firm that was absolutely, definitely, completely legitimate, and not at all a front for one of New York's most powerful organized crime families. Officially, Pisano Global helped corporations navigate complex international business environments. Unofficially? Well, let's just say their client list included people who solved problems with methods that wouldn't hold up in corporate arbitration. Cassio himself was the kind of man who made rooms go quiet when he entered. Tall, dark-haired, with the kind of sharp Italian features that belonged on Roman coins. He wore suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and he wore them like armor. His eyes were the worst part, dark, cold, calculating, the kind of eyes that saw through every lie, every excuse, every weakness. When Cassio Pisano looked at you, you felt weighed, measured, and usually found wanting. He'd inherited the organization from his father at 28, after a violent coup that left 3 rival families decimated and everyone else too terrified to challenge him. 5 years later, he'd transformed the business, making it sleeker, more efficient, more deadly. He demanded absolute perfection, from his operations, from his people, from the universe itself, and from his secretaries most of all. Which brought us to the current problem. Cassio Pisano burned through assistants faster than most people burned through coffee. 5 in 6 days, muttered James from accounting, watching the latest victim flee toward the elevators. That's got to be a record. Amanda lasted 3 hours on Monday, whispered Priya from marketing, pretending to review a contract. He fired her because she said, "Good morning," with too much enthusiasm. Jennifer made it to Tuesday lunch, added Marcus, the intern. She brought him Italian takeout. Apparently it was the wrong region. And Rebecca? James shook his head. She organized his pens by color instead of by frequency of use, gone by Wednesday afternoon. No one survives him, Priya concluded. No one. Inside his office, Cassio stood at the window, looking out over Manhattan with the expression of a man who owned half of it and was annoyed by the half he didn't. The intercom buzzed. His head of security, a mountain of a man named Luca, who'd worked for Cassio's father and survived 3 assassination attempts. "Capo," Luca's voice crackled through. "Your mother is here." Cassio closed his eyes. Of course she was. Send her in. The door opened without a knock. Only one person in the world had that privilege. Cassio Matteo Pisano. The voice was sharp, aristocratic, and utterly unamused. Giuliana Pisano swept into the office like a force of nature. At 58, she was still stunning silver hair, perfectly styled, designer suit that screamed old money, the kind of presence that made dictators reconsider their life choices. She was also the only person on earth that Cassio was even slightly afraid of. "Mama," he said carefully, "I have a board meeting in..." "Which I rescheduled." She settled into the chair across from his desk like she owned it, which, technically, she partially did. "We need to talk about your assistant problem." "I don't have a problem. I have standards." "You have a revolving door." 5 secretaries in 6 days, Cassio? 5? They were incompetent. They were human beings with normal reaction times and a basic need for bathroom breaks. Giuliana crossed her legs, the picture of elegant disapproval. "You're impossible." "I'm efficient." "You're alone." The words hung in the air like an accusation. "When was the last time you left this office before midnight? When was the last time you had a conversation with someone who wasn't reporting quarterly earnings?" Cassio's jaw tightened. "I have a company to run. You have a life to live." Giuliana stood. "And right now you're coming with me for coffee. Non-negotiable." "Mama." "Don't mama me. You need to clear that ice-cold temperament before the board meeting, and I need an espresso. Let's go." Arguing with Giuliana Pisano was like arguing with a hurricane, pointless and likely to end with you being destroyed. Cassio grabbed his phone and followed his mother to the elevator, already regretting this decision. The cafe was on the ground floor, a sleek, modern space with exposed brick and hanging Edison bulbs. It was trendy in that way. Manhattan cafes were trendy, where a cappuccino cost $8 and came with foam art of a swan. The line was long. Naturally, Giuliana didn't wait in line. She simply walked to the counter like she owned the place. Which, Cassio suddenly remembered, she actually did. She'd invested in the cafe chain 2 years ago. That's when he heard it. "Okay, Emma Hanford, you can do this. It's just coffee. You've made coffee 1,000 times. This is not rocket science. This is bean juice with foam. Bean juice. You've got this." Cassio frowned. Someone was talking to themselves, out loud. Behind the counter stood a young woman, 25, maybe, with light brown hair pulled into a messy ponytail that was already losing the battle with gravity. She wore the cafe uniform with a name tag that read Emma, and an apron that had what looked like 3 different types of stains. She was staring at the espresso machine like it was a bomb she had to defuse. "All right, press the button, the right button, that one. No wait, not that one, the other one. The steamer. Yes, perfect." She pressed something. The machine made a sound like a dying whale. A jet of steam shot out sideways, hitting her directly in the face. "Fantastic. Now I look like I fought a volcano and lost." She grabbed a towel, wiped her face, tried again. "Okay, round 2. Let's be friends. Espresso machine. I'll be gentle. You be cooperative. Deal?" Giuliana turned to Cassio, her eyes sparkling with something he hadn't seen in years. Genuine amusement. "She's perfect," Giuliana whispered. "She's a disaster," Cassio corrected. "Exactly." The young woman, Emma, finally produced something that looked like a cappuccino. She held it up to the light, examining it like a jeweler appraising a diamond. "Okay. Not bad. The foam is a little lopsided, but so is my life. So we're matching. That's aesthetic consistency. Very professional." She set the cup on the counter with excessive care, like she was handling nitroglycerin. Giuliana approached. "Excuse me, dear." Emma looked up, startled, like she'd forgotten there were actual customers in the cafe. "Oh, hi, hello. Yes. How can I? She noticed Cassio standing behind his mother, and her eyes went wide. Oh no. Oh no no no. You're Cassio Pisano, the CEO of this entire building, who technically pays my salary through like 17 layers of corporate hierarchy, but still. She took a breath. Okay, Emma, stop talking. Make the coffee. Impress the scary billionaire. Don't spill anything. Don't break anything. Just smile and be normal. Cassio raised an eyebrow. She really was talking to herself, out loud, constantly. 2 espressi, please, Juliana said, her smile growing. 2 espressi. Perfect. Simple. I can do this. 2 little cups of bean juice. Easy. Emma turned back to the machine. Okay, machine. We're friends now, right? We bonded during the foam incident. Let's make this work. Juliana leaned toward Cassio. I want her. What? As your assistant. Cassio nearly choked. You're joking. I'm completely serious. Juliana watched Emma with the same expression she used when she found a Caravaggio at an estate sale. She's perfect for you. She talks to coffee machines. And you talk to spreadsheets at 3 a.m. Everyone has quirks. Before Cassio could respond, Emma turned around with 2 tiny cups of espresso, the crema perfectly golden. Here you go, 2 espressi. No casualties, no steam injuries, just pure caffeinated excellence. She beamed. Juliana took both cups, handed one to Cassio, then did something completely insane. She pulled a business card from her purse and slid it across the counter. Dear, have you ever considered a career change? Emma blinked. What? Human Resources, 12th floor, Monday morning, 9 a.m. Tell them Juliana Pisano sent you. Don't be late. And then Juliana simply walked away, leaving Cassio frozen and Emma staring at the business card like it might explode. Wait, what just happened? Emma looked at Cassio. Did your mother just offer me a job? In this building? The building where you fired 5 people in 6 days? Cassio closed his eyes. Welcome to my personal nightmare, Miss Hanford. And then he turned and walked away, leaving Emma standing behind the counter, whispering to herself, Okay, that was insane, completely insane. Should I go? Should I not go? Did I just get headhunted by a mafia boss's mother while wearing an apron covered in milk stains? Is this how people die? This feels like how people die. Outside the cafe, Juliana was waiting with a smile that could cut glass. She's perfect, Cassio. She's chaotic, Mama. She's exactly what you need. Juliana sipped her espresso. Someone who isn't afraid to be human. Someone who makes mistakes and laughs about them. Someone who'll survive you because she's too busy talking to herself to notice how terrifying you are. Cassio looked back at the cafe, where Emma was now apparently having an argument with the espresso machine about boundaries and professional respect. And for the first time in months, maybe years, Cassio Pisano felt something other than cold control. Curiosity, which was somehow even more dangerous. Monday morning arrived with the same enthusiasm as a root canal. Emma stood outside Pisano Global at 8:53 a.m., exactly 7 minutes before her official start time, having learned her lesson about Cassio Pisano's relationship with punctuality. She'd spent the entire weekend reading the 47-page employee handbook that Claire had emailed her, which included gems like Section 12.4, proper pen alignment on executive desks, and Appendix C, acceptable coffee temperature ranges. She was as prepared as anyone could be for working with a man who probably had opinions about the molecular structure of air. Okay, Emma, she muttered, staring at her reflection in the building's glass doors. First day. Don't break anything. Don't spill anything. Don't say anything sarcastic out loud. Just smile, nod, and survive until lunch. She walked into the lobby. At exactly 8 hours, 59 minutes and 30 seconds, she stepped into the elevator. At exactly 9 hours, the doors opened on the 60th floor. Claire looked up from her desk, checked her watch, and gave the smallest nod of approval. On time. Impressive. Most people overcorrect on day 1 and arrive early. I read the handbook. Twice. I now dream in 6-minute increments. Good. You'll need that. Claire stood, gestured toward a smaller desk positioned outside Cassio's office. That's yours. Computer is already set up. Password is on the post-it note. Mr. Pisano will be here in 4 minutes. He'll give you your first assignment immediately. No warm-up period. No orientation. Just work. Fantastic. Nothing says welcome to the team like immediate high-pressure tasks. Claire's mouth twitched. You're going to be entertaining to watch. That's what people said about the Titanic. At exactly 9:04 a.m., Cassio emerged from the private elevator. He moved through the office like a force of nature, swift, purposeful, terrifying. His black suit was immaculate. His expression was unreadable. He didn't acknowledge Emma as he passed, just dropped a thick file folder on her desk without breaking stride. Conference room in 6 minutes. These contracts need to be organized by date, then by client name, then by dollar amount. I need a summary of each on my tablet. Go. And then he was gone. The door to his office closing with a soft click that somehow sounded ominous. Emma stared at the file folder. It was at least 3 inches thick. She opened it. Approximately 200 pages of dense legal contracts, most with multiple amendments, all shuffled together in what appeared to be deliberately chaotic order. Okay, she whispered. He wants me to fail. This is a test. This is designed to be impossible. She checked her watch. 5 minutes and 40 seconds to do 6 hours of work. Sure, totally reasonable. This is fine. She started pulling contracts out, spreading them across her desk in organized chaos. Her art history brain kicked in the same part that could look at a Renaissance painting and identify 17 different classical references, was now sorting legal documents by visual patterns. Dates in the header. Client names in bold. Dollar amounts always in the 3rd paragraph. She didn't read the contracts. She scanned them, her eyes picking out patterns, her hands sorting on autopilot while her brain did 3 things at once. Okay. Chronological first, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, current year. Then, alphabetical within each year A, B, C, this one's under Donato, this one's Moretti, and dollar amounts are helpfully always 3rd paragraph, usually 2nd sentence. She typed summary notes into the tablet with one hand while organizing papers with the other. At 9:09 a.m., she grabbed the organized contracts and the tablet and walked to the conference room. At 9:10 a.m., she pushed open the door. Cassio sat at the head of the table, watching the clock on his computer screen. When she entered at the exact moment the display changed to 9:10 a.m., his eyebrow raised fractionally. Contracts organized by date, client name, and dollar amount, Emma said, setting the stack down. Summaries are on the tablet, organized in the same order. I flagged 3 contracts that have conflicting amendment dates and might need legal review. Cassio picked up the tablet, scrolled through her notes. His expression remained neutral. You found the Donato discrepancy. The amendment was dated before the original contract. Either someone invented time travel, or there's an error. It took my previous assistant 3 days to find that error. I have a useless art history degree that trained me to spot details that don't match. Turns out it's occasionally useful. Cassio's eyes met hers. Occasionally? Well, it hasn't helped me at any parties. Hey, did you notice that painting has the wrong type of gilding for its supposed era? Isn't a great conversation starter. Despite himself and Emma could see him fighting it, Cassio's mouth twitched. Next task, he said, standing. Follow me. The rest of Monday was a blur of impossible tasks delivered with military precision. This client list needs to be cross-referenced with our meeting database and organized by profitability per hour of engagement time. These expense reports need to be audited for irregularities. You have 12 minutes. Call these 6 people and reschedule their meetings to optimize my afternoon calendar. None of them can know they're being rescheduled because of each other. Emma tackled each task with a combination of frantic energy and muttered commentary. Cross-reference by profitability. Sure. I definitely know what that means. I'll just use my psychic powers to— oh wait, there's a formula at the bottom of the spreadsheet. How helpful. How very— I'm testing you to see if you read to the end— helpful. When she spilled coffee on her keyboard during the expense report audit, of course she didn't panic. She just grabbed napkins, cleaned it up, and kept working while muttering, Cool. Destroying company property on day one. Very professional. This is fine. Cassio, passing by her desk at that moment, paused. Is that coffee on your keyboard? It's mostly on the napkins. The keyboard is only slightly caffeinated. It'll be fine. Might type faster now. Caffeine affects electronics the same as humans, right? That's not how electronics work. Well, not with that attitude. Cassio stared at her. Emma stared back. And then, so quickly she almost missed it, he smiled. A real smile. Small, fleeting, but genuine. He walked back into his office without another word. Emma let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Okay, that was either good or I'm about to get fired, and he's smiling because he enjoys destruction. Could go either way. Tuesday was more of the same, but faster, harder. Like Cassio was actively trying to find her breaking point. These shipment schedules need to be cross-referenced with our security rotation schedule. Find any overlaps. Emma pulled up both documents, started scanning. And then she stopped. Mr. Pisano? He looked up from his computer. Yes? Why do we have security rotation schedules for shipments? This is a consulting firm. We handle sensitive client information. Security is necessary. Right. But these rotations, she pointed at the screen, they change every shipment. Different teams, different routes, different times. That's not standard security protocol. That's anti-pattern security, the kind you use when you're trying to avoid someone predicting your movements. Cassio went very still. What makes you say that? My dad was military. He used to talk about convoy security. You either establish patterns because they're efficient and defendable, or you randomize everything because you're worried about inside threats. She looked at the data again. These are randomized. Which means you're worried about someone inside the company having access to predictable information. The silence that followed was heavy. You're observant, Cassio said finally. I notice details. It's why I broke your display case. I was too busy looking at the inkwell to watch where I was going. She smiled weakly. My blessing and my curse. Find the overlaps. Report them to me directly. No one else. Okay. Emma went back to the data, but she could feel the shift in the room. She'd just stumbled onto something real, something dangerous. Something that made Cassio Pisano's impossible standards make a lot more sense. Wednesday afternoon, Emma was filing documents when she heard Cassio on the phone in his office. His door was slightly ajar, unusual, since he normally kept it closed. No, the Moretti shipment is delayed. I don't care what excuse they gave you. It's unacceptable. His voice had a harder edge now. The smooth, controlled CEO voice was gone. This was something else. Something with teeth. Emma kept filing, pretending not to listen. Tell them if they can't meet the timeline, we'll find someone who can. And make sure Romano understands that my patience has limits. He hung up. Emma knocked on the doorframe. Mr. Pisano? The contracts you wanted are ready. Cassio looked up. For just a moment, his expression was unguarded stress, frustration, the weight of whatever he was actually dealing with. Then the mask slammed back into place. Bring them in. Emma entered, set the contracts on his desk. The Moretti file was incomplete. I flagged the missing pages. You notice that? Page numbers were sequential except for pages 47 to 52. Either they were removed or never included. Cassio leaned back in his chair, studying her. You're very thorough for someone who talks to herself about coffee machines. I contain multitudes, mostly chaos and anxiety, but also occasional competence. Occasional? Let's not get carried away. I've been here 3 days and I've spilled coffee, knocked over a plant, and somehow managed to get toner on my face from a printer I wasn't even using. Yet you've completed every task I've given you. Yeah, well, my brain works even if my body doesn't. She shrugged. I'm like a very smart pinball. bouncing around but somehow landing in the right place. Cassio's expression softened. Just barely. You're nothing like my previous assistants. Is that good? I haven't decided yet. Emma smiled. That's fair. I haven't decided if I like working here yet either. You're on a 3-day probation. You don't get to decide. Sure I do. I could quit, walk out right now, forfeit the $10,000 and my dignity. You won't. How do you know? Cassio stood, walked around his desk until he was close enough that Emma had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. His presence was overwhelming, intense, magnetic, slightly terrifying. Because you're curious, he said quietly. You noticed the security patterns, you flagged the missing pages. You're wondering what kind of consulting firm needs this level of operational security. He smiled sharp, knowing. And you're wondering if I'm dangerous. Emma's heart hammered. Are you? Very. Should I be scared? Probably. Am I? His eyes held hers. You tell me. Emma should have been terrified. Should have grabbed her bag and run. Should have called the police, the FBI, her mother. Instead, she heard herself say, I've survived 3 days of your impossible standards. Whatever else you are, I can probably handle it. Cassio laughed, a real, genuine laugh that transformed his entire face. Emma Hanford, you're either going to be the best decision I've ever made or the one that finally destroys me. Can I be both? Probably. He stepped back, the moment breaking. Go home. You've survived your 3-day trial. Report Monday at 9 a.m. You're officially hired. Emma blinked. I am? Don't sound so surprised. You earned it. He returned to his desk. And Emma? Yes? Whatever you think you've figured out about this company, you're right. And that makes you either very valuable or very dangerous to me. Which one am I? Cassio's smile was all edges. I'm still deciding. Emma left his office, grabbed her bag, and made it to the elevator before her legs started shaking. She'd just been hired by a man who was definitely running something illegal. She should quit. Should run, should report him. Instead, she pressed the button for the lobby and whispered to herself, Emma, you're either about to have the adventure of your life or end up on a true crime podcast. Possibly both. The elevator descended. And Emma Hanford realized she was okay with that. Emma spent the weekend doing something incredibly stupid, researching Cassio Pisano. Not the official biography CEO of Pisano Global, Harvard MBA, Forbes 30 under 30 at 29, various philanthropic board positions. That was the polished version, the one designed for shareholders and society pages. She dug deeper. Late-night internet rabbit holes fueled by cheap wine and morbid curiosity. Pisano family history, Sicilian immigration in the 1,920 seconds, rumors of organized crime connections that were always just vague enough to avoid lawsuits. A father who died in a tragic accident 5 years ago. An organization that went from street-level enforcement to international consulting in 1 generation. By Sunday night, Emma had concluded 3 things. 1. Cassio Pisano was absolutely, definitely running a criminal organization. 2. She should quit immediately. 3. She was absolutely, definitely not going to quit. You have a problem, she told her reflection while brushing her teeth. A self-preservation problem. Normal people see red flags and run. You see red flags and think, ooh, adventure. Her reflection didn't argue. Monday morning she arrived at exactly 9 a.m. to find Claire already at her desk, looking unusually tense. He's been here since 6, Claire said without preamble. Something's wrong. He's in a mood. What kind of mood? The dangerous kind. The kind where he fires people for breathing wrong. Claire's eyes held genuine concern. Be careful today. Emma knocked on Cassio's office door at 9:02. Come in. She entered to find him standing at the window, staring out at Manhattan with the expression of a general surveying a battlefield he was losing. Close the door, he said without turning around. Emma closed it. The click sounded final. I have a problem, Cassio said. A very expensive, very dangerous problem, and you're going to help me solve it. Okay. He turned. His eyes were dark, intense, crackling with barely controlled fury. 3 months ago, I acquired a shipping company. Legitimate business, clean books, good reputation. The acquisition was valued at $50 million. That sounds successful. It should have been. Except last week I discovered that someone has been using that shipping company to move things I didn't authorize. Things that could get me killed or imprisoned, depending on who finds out first. Emma's mouth went dry. Oh, I need to know who, I need to know how, and I need to know what they're planning next. He walked to his desk, pulled out a thick folder. These are the financial reports from the acquisition, every document, every contract, every amendment. My analysts have gone through them twice. They found nothing. But you think something's there. I know something's there. I can feel it. He set the folder on the conference table in his office. You have a talent for seeing patterns other people miss, so look, find what they couldn't. Emma approached the table slowly. Mr. Pisano. Cassio, if you're going to help me avoid prison or death, use my first name. Cassio, she corrected, the name feeling strange on her tongue. What exactly am I looking for? Anything that doesn't fit, anything that feels wrong. Trust your instincts. He checked his watch. I have back-to-back calls for the next 4 hours. Work here. Don't leave this office. Don't discuss this with anyone. Understood? Understood. He grabbed his phone, moved to his desk, and immediately dove into a call in rapid Italian. Emma caught words like tradimento, betrayal, and bastardo, self-explanatory. She turned to the documents and got to work. 2 hours in, Emma's eyes were crossing. The financial reports were dense, technical, and brutally boring. Shipping manifests, customs declarations, insurance documents, port authority fees, page after page of numbers that all looked legitimate. Too legitimate. That was the thing that kept nagging at her. Every document was perfect. No errors, no corrections, no inconsistencies. Like someone had been very, very careful to make sure everything looked exactly right. Which was exactly what you'd do if you were hiding something. Emma rubbed her eyes, grabbed her 5th coffee of the morning made by Claire, who'd wordlessly delivered it without being asked, and started over. This time, she didn't read the documents. She looked at them. Her art history training kicked in the same way she could analyze a painting's composition. She analyzed the document's structure, the flow of information, the patterns of language. And that's when she saw it. Buried in the shipping manifests were port codes, standard 3-letter abbreviations for international ports, GEN for Genoa, NAP for Naples, PAL for Palermo. Except scattered throughout the documents were 4-letter codes that didn't match any standard system. VEND, MDCISFZ, ACORS. Emma stared at them. They felt familiar, like something she should recognize but couldn't quite place. She pulled out her phone and started Googling. Nothing. Come on, brain, she muttered. Why do these feel important? VEND, MDCI, SFZA, CORS? They're not acronyms, they're not modern port codes. She stopped, grabbed a piece of paper, wrote out the letters with spaces between them. VEN space D, MDC space I, SF space ZA, COR space S. Oh my God. They weren't modern codes, they were old abbreviations, Renaissance abbreviations. VEN meant Venice. The D stood for Doge, the historical ruler. MDC was the Roman numeral for 1600. SFZA meant Sforza, the ruling family of Milan. CORS was Corsica. They were Renaissance Italian trade codes. The kind of shorthand Venetian merchants used in the 1500s when documenting trade routes and political alliances. Emma's thesis had been on exactly this: Venetian trade networks and Renaissance art patronage. She'd spent 6 months translating merchant documents that used this exact system. Someone had encoded modern shipping information using 500-year-old Venetian merchant codes. Her heart racing, Emma grabbed a notepad and started connecting the dots. VEND meant Venice connections, Northern Italian roots. MDCI, the number 1600, was probably a quantity code. SFZA meant Sforza, which historically meant force or power. CORS, Corsica, meant island routes, possibly offshore accounts. She cross-referenced the coded entries with the legitimate shipping data. Emma left the office at 11:47 p.m. with her brain buzzing and her moral compass spinning like a broken compass in a magnetic field. She'd just helped a mafia boss identify a traitor in his organization using Renaissance trade codes. This was not a normal Tuesday. This was not covered in the employee handbook. She made it home, collapsed on her bed, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling until her alarm went off 4 hours later. Wednesday morning arrived with all the gentle grace of a freight train. Emma dragged herself into the office at 8:58 a.m., technically on time but spiritually destroyed, to find Claire looking even more tense than usual. "He's been here since 5, Claire said quietly. "Whatever you two were working on last night, it's happening. Luca's in there now." Emma's stomach dropped. "Should I stay out here? When Cassio wants you, he'll call." So Emma sat at her desk, pretending to work while actually staring at Cassio's closed door and wondering if she was about to witness a murder. At 9:23 a.m., the door opened. Luca emerged tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of face that had seen things and done worse. He looked calm, professional, completely unaware that he might be walking into a trap. He nodded at Emma as he passed. "Morning." "Morning," Emma managed, her voice only slightly strangled. Luca disappeared into the elevator. 2 minutes later, Cassio appeared in his doorway. "Emma, my office." She grabbed her tablet and went. Cassio closed the door behind her. His expression was unreadable, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the slight tightness around his eyes. "I gave him the false information," Cassio said. "Told him about the Florentine sculpture acquisition using the exact coded entry you created. He took notes, asked intelligent questions, seemed completely normal. And now? Now we wait. If that code shows up in the next shipping manifest, we know. If it doesn't," he shrugged, "then I've accused the wrong person and potentially created a problem where there wasn't one. How long until the next manifest?" 3 days. Friday morning. He moved to the window, stared out at the city. 3 days of pretending everything is normal while wondering if my head of security is planning to destroy me. Emma set down her tablet. "Cassio, can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Why do you do this? The legitimate business is successful. You could walk away from," she gestured vaguely, "whatever else this is, live a normal life." His laugh was bitter. "Normal? You think I have any idea what normal looks like? I think you could learn." He turned to face her. "My father built this organization from nothing. He came to New York with $200 and a reputation that opened doors and closed coffins. Everything I have, every connection, every dollar, every ounce of respect I inherited from a man who taught me that power is the only thing that matters. But you don't believe that. How do you know? Because if you did, you wouldn't care about the inkwell." Emma took a step closer. "You wouldn't keep it in a display case. You wouldn't have it repaired after I broke it. You'd have thrown it away because it represented weakness." Cassio's jaw tightened. "Don't psychoanalyze me, Emma. I'm not. I'm observing. It's what I do." She took another step. "That inkwell means something to you. Something important enough that you've built your entire office around protecting it. It belonged to my brother." The words hung in the air like confession. "I didn't know you had a brother," Emma said quietly. "I don't. Not anymore." Cassio's expression was carved from stone. "Marco died 5 years ago. Car accident. He was 29. I'm so sorry." "Don't be. It was my fault." Emma blinked. "How could a car accident be your fault?" "Because he was driving to meet me, to tell me he wanted out. Out of the family, out of the business, out of everything our father built." Cassio's voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone who'd told this story to themselves 1,000 times. Marco was the good son, the legitimate one. He had an MBA from Wharton, a job at a real consulting firm, a fiancé who didn't know what our last name really meant. He moved to his desk, pulled open a drawer, and extracted a photograph, handed it to Emma. 2 men, clearly brothers. Cassio, younger, less guarded, and another man, similar features but softer, smiling like he believed the world was fundamentally good. "He gave me that inkwell for my 25th birthday," Cassio continued. "Said it was from the 1500s, used by Venetian merchants to sign contracts. He said he wanted me to remember that our family came from businessmen, not criminals. That we could choose to be legitimate. And you wanted that too." I wanted him to be happy, to be safe, to have the normal life I'd never have. Cassio's composure cracked, just slightly. "So, when he called and said he needed to talk, that it was urgent, I told him to come to the office. Late. After everyone else had gone. Because I didn't want anyone to know he was distancing himself from the family." Emma's chest tightened. "Cassio. It was raining. The roads were bad. He was rushing because I'd told him I only had 30 minutes before a meeting." His voice broke. "He ran a red light. A truck hit him. He died instantly. That wasn't your fault. I told him to rush. I prioritized a business meeting over my brother's crisis. I let him drive in dangerous conditions because I couldn't be bothered to reschedule." Cassio's eyes were haunted. "So yes, Emma, it was my fault." Emma set down the photograph carefully. "You're wrong." "Excuse me?" "You're wrong. And you know you're wrong. But guilt is easier than grief, so you've been wearing it like armor for 5 years." She moved closer, close enough to see the pain he was trying so hard to hide. "Your brother made a choice to drive in bad weather. He made a choice to run that light. Those were his choices, not yours. You didn't kill him. A tragic accident killed him. You don't understand. I understand that you've spent 5 years punishing yourself by being perfect, by controlling everything, by never letting anyone close enough to matter because if you don't care, you can't fail them." Her voice softened. "Cassio, that's not living. That's just slowly dying while your heart is still beating." His control shattered. "Then what do you suggest I do? Let go? Trust people? Look where trust got me. I have a traitor in my organization using my own operations to destroy me. I have," he gestured at her, "a secretary who broke into secrets she shouldn't know, who's seen things that could get her killed, who's standing here telling me how to feel when she has no idea what this life costs." "You're right," Emma said. "I don't know. I don't know what it's like to inherit violence. I don't know what it's like to lose someone and blame yourself. I don't know what it's like to be Cassio Pisano." She took one more step, close enough now that she could feel the heat radiating off him, could see the way his chest rose and fell with barely controlled emotion. "But I know what it's like to be afraid of failing. I know what it's like to think you're not good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. I know what it's like to hide behind sarcasm because vulnerability is terrifying." Her voice dropped. "And I know what it's like to see someone hurting and want to help, even when it's probably a terrible idea. Emma, you're not your father, you're not your brother, you're Cassio, and you're allowed to be flawed and human and imperfect. You're allowed to let someone in. And if I do? If I let you in and something happens to you because of who I am? Because of what I do? Then that's my choice. Not your fault. My choice." The air between them was electric, charged, impossible. Cassio's eyes searched hers, looking for doubt, for fear, for any sign that she didn't mean what she was saying. He found none. "You should run," he said quietly. "You should leave this office, quit this job, forget everything you've seen. I'm dangerous, Emma. To everyone around me. To you. I know. And you're staying anyway." "I'm staying anyway." "Why?" Emma took a shaky breath. "Because for the first time in years, I'm not bored. I'm not invisible. I'm not just going through the motions waiting for my real life to start. She smiled, tentative and honest. Because you see me, really see me. Not the clumsy girl who breaks things. Not the failed art history major. Just me. Cassio's hand came up, cupped her face with surprising gentleness. Emma Hanford, you are either going to save me or destroy me. Can I be both? Probably. And then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't tentative, it was fierce, desperate, consuming 5 years of isolation and grief and guarded loneliness finally breaking through the walls he'd built. Emma kissed him back with equal intensity, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer, needing the contact like oxygen. This was insane, this was dangerous, this was her boss, a criminal, someone who lived in a world of violence and secrets. And she didn't care. Because beneath the danger and the darkness, Cassio Pisano was just a man who'd spent 5 years punishing himself for being human, who'd built an empire of control because he was terrified of losing someone again, who'd just let her see the broken pieces he'd been hiding behind impossible standards and icy commands. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cassio rested his forehead against hers. "This is a terrible idea," he murmured. "The worst," Emma agreed. "You work for me, I'm your boss, this is wildly inappropriate." "Completely. And there's a very real chance that in 3 days we're going to discover I have a traitor who wants me dead. That does complicate things." Despite everything, Cassio laughed. "You're remarkable. I'm impulsive and bad at self-preservation." "That too." He pulled back, his thumb tracing her jawline. "Emma, if you stay, if we do this, I can't promise it will be safe. I can't promise it will be easy. I can't even promise we'll survive whatever is coming. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for truth. The truth is, I haven't felt anything real in 5 years. And then you showed up, broke my inkwell, decoded Renaissance trade routes, and somehow made me remember what it's like to be human." His eyes held hers. "The truth is, you terrify me more than any enemy I've ever faced. Because I matter. Because you matter." Emma kissed him again, softer this time, but no less intense. When they broke apart, she smiled. "So what now? Now we wait 3 days. We see if Luca is the traitor. We deal with whatever comes next." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "And I try very hard not to get you killed in the process. I'd appreciate that. I have student loans to pay off. Dying would be financially inconvenient." Cassio's laugh was genuine, warm. "There she is, my sarcastic, brilliant, impossibly brave Emma." "You're Emma? If you'll have me." "Cassio Pisano, you're a mafia boss with control issues, trust problems, and a tendency to fire people for breathing wrong. Is that a yes?" Emma grinned. "It's definitely a yes." Outside the office, the city continued its chaos. Inside, 2 people who shouldn't have fit together, the criminal and the clumsy art historian, held on to each other like lifelines. And Emma realized that sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do was exactly the right thing. Even if it might kill you. Especially then. Friday morning arrived with the weight of a guillotine blade. Emma had barely slept the past 2 nights, her brain cycling through every possible outcome of what they were about to discover. She'd replayed their kiss approximately 700 times, analyzed every word of Cassio's confession, and had 3 separate panic attacks about the fact that she was now romantically involved with a man who quite literally had people killed for a living. But she showed up at 8:57 a.m. anyway, because apparently her survival instincts had completely abandoned her. Claire took one look at her face and slid a large coffee across the desk. "You look like death." "Thanks. Very professional observation. The shipping manifest came in 20 minutes ago. He's been reviewing it since." Claire's voice dropped. "Emma, I don't know what you 2 found, but Cassio looks like he's about to start a war." Emma's stomach clenched. "That bad?" "Worse." At exactly 9 a.m., Cassio's office door opened. He stood in the doorway, his expression carved from ice, his eyes burning with cold fury. "Emma!" Now! She grabbed her tablet and went. The moment the door closed behind her, Cassio handed her his laptop. Look at line 47, shipping manifest from Wednesday night. Emma's eyes found the entry immediately. Shipment number 4,721, Florentine Sculptures, Vend, MDCI, SFZA, Cores. The exact fake code she'd created, word for word, letter for letter. Oh God, Emma whispered. Luca received my acquisition information on Wednesday at 10 a.m. By Wednesday night, this manifest was filed with our logistics coordinator. Cassio's voice was deadly quiet. He didn't even wait 24 hours. He's that confident I won't catch it. Or he's getting desperate. Emma set down the laptop. Cassio, if he's moving this fast, then he knows I'm closing in, which means he's either going to run or he's going to strike first. Cassio pulled up another file. I had our IT department pull Luca's complete background file, everything from his hire date to his family history. Look at this. He pointed to a section of text. Emma leaned closer. Previous employment, Romano Security Consulting 2018 to 2020. Reference, Michael Hanford, Senior Investigative Journalist, New York Times. Emma's blood turned to ice. That's my father's name. I know. My father gave Luca a reference? When? Cassio scrolled through the document. According to this, your father interviewed Luca for a story about private security firms in 2019. Luca was working for a company that provided protection for high-profile corporate clients. The article never published. Emma's mind raced. My dad was working on a series about organized crime connections to legitimate businesses. He interviewed hundreds of people. Most of the stories got killed by legal or by editorial. Do you remember him mentioning Luca? Or Romano Security? Emma stopped. Closed her eyes. Tried to remember. Maybe. He was frustrated that year. Said he'd found connections between security firms and crime families but couldn't prove it without sources going on record. She looked at Cassio. You think my father discovered something about Luca? I think Luca gave your father information he shouldn't have. Information that could have exposed connections between Romano Security and actual organized crime operations. Cassio pulled up another screen. Romano Security was shut down in 2020 after the owner, Victor Romano, died in a car accident. Emma felt sick. Another convenient accident. Exactly. 6 months later, Luca applies to work for me, comes with impeccable references. My father hires him immediately. Cassio's expression was grim. Emma, what if Luca didn't just betray me? What if he's been planning this for years? Working for Victor Romano, getting caught, having to disappear that investigation, and then infiltrating your organization to finish what he started. Emma's hands were shaking. Cassio, if my father's investigation is connected to this, if Luca thinks I know something, then you're a target. Cassio closed the laptop. Which is why you're leaving. Today, I'm putting you on a plane to somewhere Luca can't find you until this is resolved. What? No. This isn't a negotiation, Emma. Luca is dangerous. He's connected to your father's investigation, and he now knows I'm looking into the manifests because I haven't given him any new acquisition information in 2 days. Cassio's voice was firm. He's going to move soon. When he does, anyone close to me becomes a target. Then I'm already a target. Running won't change that. Emma stood, planting herself between Cassio and his desk. And besides, you need me. I need you safe. You need me here. I'm the only one who can read those codes. If Luca creates new manifests, if he changes his pattern, your analysts won't catch it. I will, Emma. And there's something else. She pulled out her phone, started scrolling through old emails. After my dad died, I inherited all his research files. Notes, interviews, documents he never published. I haven't looked at them in years because it was too painful, but if Luca is connected to that investigation... She found what she was looking for, forwarded the email to Cassio's computer. These are my father's archived notes. organized by subject, source, and date. If he interviewed Luca, if he discovered something about Romano security, it'll be in here. Cassio opened the file, started scanning through hundreds of documents. This is years of work. Which is why you need me to help you search. I know my father's filing system. I know what he was investigating. I can find the connection faster than anyone else. Emma moved closer. Cassio, I know you want to protect me. But pushing me away isn't protection, it's just making both of us weaker. His jaw clenched. If something happens to you, then that's on Luca, not you. She took his hand. You spent 5 years blaming yourself for your brother. Don't do the same thing with me. Let me help. Let me choose to stay. Cassio stared at her, the internal battle visible on his face. Finally, he nodded. Fine, but you don't leave my sight. If I'm in a meeting, you're in the meeting. If I'm investigating Luca, you're investigating with me. And if anything feels wrong, you run. Understood? Understood. And, Emma? His voice dropped. If we do this, if we're in this together, you need to know what that means. I'm going to confront Luca. When I do, it won't be pretty. It won't be legal. And you'll be a witness to things that could put you in prison if they ever come to light. Emma swallowed hard. I know. And you're still staying? I'm still staying. Cassio pulled her close, pressed a kiss to her forehead. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most reckless. Definitely the second one. They spent the next 4 hours going through Michael Hanford's research files. It was painfully slow work. Emma's father had been thorough to the point of obsession, documenting every interview, every lead, every dead end. Finally, at 2:47 p.m., Emma found it. Cassio, look at this. She pulled up an interview transcript dated August 2019. Interview subject: Luca Martinelli. Subject: Romano Security Consulting, Corporate Protection Services. Notes. Subject: nervous. Implied: Romano Security has connections to organized crime families. Refused to go on record. Mentioned shipping operation using old trade routes to move items of interest for connected clients. Would not elaborate. Followed up twice. Subject stopped returning calls. Emma's hands were shaking. He told my father about the shipping operation, about the trade routes. 4 years ago, Luca was already talking about this. Which means this isn't new. This isn't opportunistic. Cassio's expression was deadly. Luca has been planning this for years. He fed your father just enough information to be dangerous. Then, when your father got too close... Oh my God! Emma felt dizzy. My father died in 2020, March 2020. They said it was a stroke. He was 54, relatively healthy. The doctors said it was sudden but not suspicious. Emma, what if it wasn't natural? What if Luca or whoever he was working for... She couldn't finish the sentence. Cassio pulled her into his arms. We don't know that. We can't prove that. But it fits. My father interviews Luca. Luca panics, tells his bosses. They shut down Romano Security, kill Victor Romano to cover tracks. But my father is still investigating. So... Her voice broke. So they kill him too. If that's true, if Luca was involved in your father's death, then he knows who you are. He would have known the moment I hired you. Emma pulled back. He recommended me. Remember? He told you about the temp agency where I'd registered. He said he'd vetted me, that I was low risk because I had no criminal background. He put you in this office deliberately. Cassio's fury was palpable. He wanted you close, either to monitor what you knew or to... His phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. I know you know. Meet me at the Brooklyn warehouse, 8 p.m. Come alone or the girl dies. L. The blood drained from Cassio's face. He has surveillance in this office. What? He's been listening. He knows we found the connection to your father. He knows we know. Cassio grabbed his jacket. Emma, I need you to leave. Right now. Go somewhere public. Call this number, he wrote down digits. It's my personal security team, not connected to Luca. They'll protect you until... No. Emma, this isn't negotiable. You're right. It's not. She grabbed her own jacket. If you go alone, he'll kill you. He's expecting you alone, which means he'll have backup, he'll have weapons, he'll have every advantage. You need me there. Absolutely not. I'm not bait, Cassio. I'm leverage, and I'm bait. If I'm there, Luca has to split his attention. He can't just execute you and walk away. Emma's voice was steady despite her terror. Plus, I'm probably the only person who can talk him down if there's a chance at negotiation. There's no negotiation with a man who's been planning to destroy me for 4 years. Then there's a distraction, a complication, anything that gives us an edge. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. I'm not leaving you. We're in this together. That's what we agreed. Cassio's control was fracturing. If something happens to you, then you make sure Luca pays for it. But it won't come to that. Emma tried to sound confident. We're smarter than him. We found his pattern. We decoded his system. We can beat him. You sound very certain for someone who's never been in a life-threatening situation. I broke your priceless inkwell and survived. I can survive this too. Despite everything, Cassio almost smiled. Emma Hanford, you are going to be the death of me. Not if Luca gets there first. That's not funny. Little bit funny. Cassio pulled her close, kissed her hard. If we're doing this, if we're going into this together, you follow my lead, you stay behind me, and if I tell you to run, you run. No arguments. Deal. I mean it, Emma. No heroics, no clever plans. You run. I promise. She was lying. They both knew it. But as they prepared to walk into a trap that could get them both killed, Emma realized something crucial. She'd spent her whole life being invisible, being careful, being the person who watched life happen instead of living it. Tonight, she was going to fight. For Cassio. For her father's memory. For the truth. And maybe, just maybe, they'd both survive. But even if they didn't, at least she'd die being seen. That was worth something. That was worth everything. They had 4 hours to prepare for a confrontation that would probably get them both killed. Cassio made 3 phone calls. Each one was brief, coded, and ended with the same phrase. Alle 8, Brooklyn. Venite armati. 8 o'clock, Brooklyn. Come armed. By 4:30 p.m., 6 men had arrived at a private location. Cassio owned a legitimate office building with a not-so-legitimate basement that looked like it had been designed by someone who watched too many spy movies and had the budget to make them reality. Emma stood in the corner of the war room because that's absolutely what it was, a literal war room with maps and monitors and enough weapons to stage a small coup feeling completely out of place. The men Cassio had called were not corporate security, these were soldiers. Real ones, the kind who'd seen combat and had the scars and dead eyes to prove it. They spoke in rapid Italian, checked weapons with practiced efficiency, and didn't ask questions. When Cassio said, Brooklyn warehouse hostile situation, they just nodded and started planning. Emma felt like she'd walked onto a movie set, except the guns were real and the danger was very, very literal. Okay, she whispered to herself. You're in a Mafia war room. This is fine. This is totally normal. Just another Thursday. Very casual. Very, oh God, is that a sniper rifle? Emma. Cassio's voice cut through her spiral. Come here. She crossed the room to where he stood over a map of Brooklyn's industrial district. Yes? Show me the warehouse location, Luca specified. Emma pointed to a spot on the map. Here. The old shipping facility on the water. It's been abandoned for 2 years. One of Cassio's men, a man named Marco who looked like he could bench press a car, frowned. Bad location for us. Multiple entry points, no cover, surrounded by water on 3 sides. Which is exactly why Luca chose it, Cassio said. He wants us trapped. Limited escape routes, Plenty of places for his people to set up position. He looked at his team. Standard ambush setup. He'll have men on the roof, probably more at the exits. We go in. We're walking into a kill box. So we don't go in standard, Emma said. Everyone turned to look at her. I mean, she faltered under the weight of 6 extremely dangerous men staring at her. I'm just saying, if he's expecting a standard tactical approach, maybe we do something unexpected? Like what? Marco's tone wasn't dismissive. Just curious. Like Emma's brain scrambled like we use my clumsiness. Cassio raised an eyebrow. Explain. Luca knows you. He knows how you think, how you plan, how you operate. That's why he's been able to stay ahead of you. But he doesn't know me. He knows I'm clumsy, chaotic, unpredictable. What if, she gestured at the map, what if that's our advantage? You want to use chaos as a tactical strategy, Cassio said slowly. I want to do what I do best, create distractions through complete accident. Emma pointed at the map. If we go in with a perfect plan, Luca counters it because he can predict you. But if I do something completely random, knock something over, cause a scene, create noise in the wrong place, it throws off his positioning, makes his people react instead of act. Marco looked at Cassio. Capo, she's suggesting we weaponize incompetence. I prefer strategic unpredictability, Emma corrected. But yes. Despite the tension, Cassio smiled. It's insane. But is it wrong? No. He looked at his team. We plan for a standard tactical entry positions, timing, communication, but we build in flexibility for Emma to create chaos at critical moments. When she does, we exploit the confusion. How do we know when she's creating intentional chaos versus actual chaos? Another man asked. Emma and Cassio exchanged a look. You won't, Emma admitted. That's kind of the point. Even I won't know sometimes. Marco laughed. A deep, genuine sound. Dio mio, we're going into a firefight with a chaos agent who doesn't know when she's being chaotic. This is the stupidest brilliant plan I've ever heard. Or the most brilliant stupid plan, Emma offered. Either way, we're all probably dying, Marco said cheerfully. I respect that. At 6 p.m., the team began gearing up. It was like watching a very efficient, very deadly costume change. Kevlar vests, comms equipment, weapons that Emma didn't know the names of but assumed were very illegal. Cassio handed her a vest. Put this on. I don't know how. I'll help you. He moved behind her, adjusting straps with practiced ease. His fingers brushed her shoulders, her waist, and despite the circumstances, Emma felt her pulse quicken. This feels very intimate for a pre-combat situation, she muttered. Get used to it. If we survive tonight, I plan on many more intimate situations. That's very presumptuous. I'm an optimistic person. He finished with the vest, turned her to face him. How does it feel? Heavy, uncomfortable, like I'm wearing a very unfashionable turtle shell. It'll stop most handgun rounds. Rifle rounds will still go through, so try not to get shot with anything high caliber. I'll add that to my to-do list. Don't get shot with high caliber weapons. Very helpful advice. Cassio's hands lingered on her shoulders. Emma, if you're about to tell me to stay here, save your breath. We already had this fight. I won. I was going to say thank you. That stopped her. For what? For staying. For being brave enough to walk into danger with me, for he struggled with the words, for making me remember what it's like to have someone worth protecting. Emma's throat tightened. Cassio, you don't have to protect me. I'm choosing this. I know. But I'm going to protect you anyway. His intensity was overwhelming. If anything goes wrong tonight, if Luca has more people than we expect, if the plan fails, if everything goes to hell, you run. You get out. You survive. And leave you? And live. For both of us. He cupped her face. Promise me. Emma wanted to promise, wanted to give him that reassurance. But she'd never been good at lying, and she wasn't about to start now. I promise I'll do my best to survive, she said carefully. That's all I can guarantee. Cassio's expression said he knew exactly what she wasn't promising. "You're impossible. You keep saying that like it's a bad thing. It's the best thing." He kissed her deep, desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. When they broke apart, his eyes were dark with emotion. "When this is over, when we've dealt with Luca and you're safe, I'm taking you to dinner. Real dinner. Somewhere normal where the only danger is bad service." Is that a promise or a threat? Both. Then I guess we better survive. Guess we better. Marco cleared his throat loudly. "Hate to interrupt the romantic moment, Capo, but we need to move. It's 7:15. Cassio stepped back, his mask sliding into place. "Final checks. We leave in 5 minutes." The team moved with military precision. Emma stood awkwardly in the middle of the room, wearing a bulletproof vest that was 3 sizes too big and holding absolutely no weapons because Cassio had vetoed every single suggestion she'd made. "You're not carrying a gun," he'd said flatly. "What about pepper spray?" "No." "A taser?" "No." "Brass knuckles?" "Where would you even get brass knuckles? The internet sells everything." "No weapons." So Emma had improvised. While the team was doing final weapons checks, she'd raided the break room and grabbed the most ridiculous improvised weapon she could find: 3 cans of highly carbonated energy drinks and a roll of duct tape. She'd seen it in a movie once. Shake the cans, tape them together, throw them at someone. They explode in a spray of sticky, caffeinated chaos. Was it effective? Probably not. Was it better than nothing? Marginally. Did she feel like an idiot carrying weaponized soda into a mafia confrontation? Absolutely. But Emma Hanford had built a career on making the best of terrible situations. Tonight would be no different. At exactly 7:20 p.m., they loaded into 3 black SUVs. Emma rode with Cassio in the middle vehicle, Marco driving, another man named Tony in the passenger seat. The drive to Brooklyn was silent, tense. Every red light felt like an eternity. Emma's hands were shaking. She shoved them under her thighs to hide it. Cassio noticed anyway, reached over, took one of her hands in his. "You can still change your mind," he said quietly. "I can have Marco take you somewhere safe." "I'm not changing my mind." "Emma, I'm terrified, I'm shaking, I'm probably going to throw up at some point." She squeezed his hand. "But I'm not leaving you. We're doing this together. That's final." Cassio brought her hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. "Mia bella ragazza coraggiosa, my brave, beautiful girl." "I don't feel brave." "Bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's doing what needs to be done despite it." He held her gaze. "You're the bravest person I know. You know people who've been shot multiple times and kept fighting. And you're braver than all of them." The SUV turned onto a dark industrial street. Warehouses loomed on either side, most abandoned, all covered in graffiti and decay. At the end of the street, illuminated by a single flickering streetlight, was their destination. The warehouse, where Luca was waiting. Where everything would either end or begin. Marco pulled over 2 blocks away. "This is as close as we get without being spotted." Cassio nodded. "Everyone knows the plan. Emma creates chaos. We exploit it. No heroics. We get in, we deal with Luca, we get out." The team murmured agreement. Cassio turned to Emma one last time. "Last chance. Not taking it. Then stay close to me. No matter what happens. Promise." They exited the vehicles into the cold Brooklyn night. 6 trained soldiers and 1 art history major with weaponized soda cans. Emma looked at the warehouse, then at Cassio, then at her ridiculous improvised weapons. "You know what?" she whispered to herself. "If I die tonight, at least it'll be a really interesting obituary. Local woman killed in Mafia shootout while armed with energy drinks. They'll probably make it into a weird true crime podcast." Cassio heard her and, impossibly, smiled. "If we survive this, I'm getting you therapy. If we survive this, I'm getting myself therapy. Deal." They moved toward the warehouse together. Into danger. Into darkness. into whatever ending this night would write. And Emma Hanford, who'd spent her whole life being careful, realized she'd never felt more alive. Even if she was about to die, especially then, the warehouse was exactly as terrible as Emma had imagined. Massive, dark, smelling of rust and neglect, and approximately 30 years of industrial decay. Water dripped from exposed pipes. Broken windows let in enough streetlight to create shadows, but not enough to actually see clearly. It was basically a horror movie set, except the monster was real and had a vendetta. Cassio's team moved with silent precision, spreading out to cover positions. Marco went left with Tony. Two others, Dante and Paolo, went right. That left Cassio, Emma, and a man named Rico covering the center approach. "He's here," Cassio said quietly, his eyes scanning the darkness. "I can feel it." Emma clutched her energy drink cans like they were magical talismans. "That's either really intuitive or really concerning." "Both," a voice echoed from somewhere above them. "Cassio! So good of you to come. And you brought the girl, how sentimental." "Luca." Emma's blood ran cold. She knew that voice, smooth, professional, the voice that had recommended her for this job, that had smiled at her in the office, that had probably killed her father. "Show yourself, Luca," Cassio called out. "Let's talk like adults." "We're past talking, Capo." The word was mocking. "You should have stayed ignorant, should have let me finish what I started. Instead, you had to hire a clever girl with a dead father and Renaissance education." Movement. Above them. Figures emerging from the shadows on the catwalks and behind equipment. 1, 3, 5, 8. They were outnumbered. "Cassio," Emma started. "I see them." His hand found hers, squeezed once. "Stay behind me." "Not planning on getting in front of the trained killer? Don't worry." The first shot came from nowhere and everywhere. The muzzle flash lit up the warehouse like lightning. Cassio pulled Emma down behind a rusted machine as bullets tore through the air where they'd been standing. "Contact!" Marco's voice over the comms. "North side. 4 shooters." Cassio's team returned fire. The warehouse exploded into chaos. Gunfire, shouting, the smell of cordite. Emma's entire world narrowed to the few feet of space behind industrial equipment that was currently the only thing between her and death. "Stay down," Cassio ordered, returning fire with controlled precision. Each shot he took was calculated, efficient. He moved like violence, was a language he spoke fluently. Emma pressed herself against the cold metal, her weaponized soda cans suddenly feeling extremely inadequate. "This is fine. This is totally fine. Just a normal Thursday night. Casual gunfight. Very cool. Very, oh God, is that an explosion?" Something had detonated on the east side. Smoke billowed through the warehouse. "They're pushing us toward the center," Rico said, backing up to their position. Classic pincer movement. "Then, we don't go to the center," Cassio replied. "We go up." "Up where?" "The catwalks. High ground advantage." He looked at Emma. "Can you climb?" "Can I, yes? Maybe?" "I fell off a ladder once, but that was different." Another burst of gunfire cut her off. "We're moving," Cassio said. "Emma, between Rico and me, you don't stop, you don't look back. Go." They ran. Emma had never been athletic. She'd failed gym class twice. Running was something other people did, people with coordination and lung capacity. But fear was an excellent motivator. They made it to a metal staircase leading up to the catwalks. Rico went first, providing cover. Cassio pushed Emma ahead of him, his body shielding hers. Bullets sparked off metal railings. Emma climbed faster than she'd ever climbed anything, her hands slipping on rust, her legs screaming in protest. They reached the catwalk and came face to face with Luca. He stood at the far end, backlit by a broken window, holding a gun that looked extremely professional and deadly. 2 men flanked him. "End of the line, Capo," Luca said. "Nowhere left to run." "I'm not running." Cassio's weapon was up, aimed steady. "This ends now." "You're right about that." Luca smiled. You know what your problem is, Cassio? You're too sentimental. Your father would have killed me the moment he suspected betrayal. But you? You had to investigate. Had to be sure. Had to bring your girlfriend along because you can't bear to be alone. My father was a paranoid sociopath who died friendless and afraid. But he died powerful. You're about to die weak. Luca's gun shifted toward Emma. Starting with her. Everything happened at once. Cassio lunged forward. Rico opened fire. Luca's men returned it. In the chaos, Cassio took a bullet, not center mass. The vest caught it, but the impact sent him stumbling backward into the railing. For a horrible moment, Emma thought he'd go over. He caught himself, barely. But now, Luca had the advantage. His gun was trained on Cassio, his smile was victorious. Any last words, Capo? Emma's brain did that thing where time slowed down and everything became crystal clear. Luca was focused on Cassio, his men were focused on Rico, no one was watching her. Above Luca's position, barely visible in the shadows, was an old steam pipe. Industrial. Corroded. Probably under pressure based on the faint hissing sound. Emma looked at her energy drink cans. Looked at the pipe. Looked at the duct tape. Oh, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done, she muttered. Then louder, Hey, Luca. He turned, surprised. What? Emma shook the energy drink cans as hard as she could, while simultaneously ripping the duct tape with her teeth, because she'd seen this in a movie, and movies were never wrong, right? And hurled the improvised explosive device directly at the steam pipe above Luca's head. Her aim was terrible. The cans sailed past Luca, past his men, hit the pipe at an angle, and exploded in a spectacular spray of carbonated chaos and rust particles as the corroded pipe, weakened by impact and pressure, ruptured completely. Superheated steam blasted through the catwalk. Luca and his men dove for cover, blinded and screaming as scalding vapor filled the air. Now! Emma shouted. Cassio didn't hesitate. He lunged through the steam, his weapon up. 2 shots. Both of Luca's men went down. Luca, half blind and stumbling, raised his gun toward where Cassio had been. But Cassio was already moving, faster than Emma had ever seen him move. He closed the distance, knocked the gun away, and delivered a blow that sent Luca sprawling. The gun skittered across the catwalk, toward Emma. She picked it up, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Luca, bloodied and furious, looked at her. You? You ruined everything? A clumsy girl with energy drinks? Ridana. Emma pointed the gun at him with what she hoped was intimidating steadiness. Questa ragazza goffa ha appena salvato il suo capo e distrutto 4 anni dei tuoi piani con bibite gassate e nastro adesivo. This clumsy girl just saved her boss and destroyed 4 years of your plans with carbonated drinks and duct tape. Her Italian was perfect, academic, the kind that said, I'm more educated than you and we both know it. Luca's face twisted with rage. E sai qual è la cosa più divertente? Emma continued, her confidence growing. And you know what the funniest thing is? Hai passato anni a pianificare questo. Anni, e sei stato sconfitto da una storica dell'arte con 0 esperienza di combattimento e un serio problema di coordinazione. You spent years planning this. Years. And you were defeated by an art historian with 0 combat experience and a serious coordination problem. You. Zitta. Shut up. Emma's voice was steel. Hai ucciso mio padre. Hai tradito Cassio. E pensavi di essere così furbo. You killed my father. You betrayed Cassio. And you thought you were so clever. Your father was a fool who asked too many questions. Cassio's fist connected with Luca's face, hard. The sound of impact echoed through the warehouse. Luca went down, stayed down. Cassio turned to Emma, bleeding from his shoulder, breathing hard, his eyes wild with adrenaline and fury, and something that looked a lot like pride. You threw energy drinks at a steam pipe. I improvised. You improvised a thermal weapon using carbonated beverages and infrastructure weakness. I saw it in a movie. What movie? I don't remember. I was very stressed. Despite everything, the gunfire still echoing below, the bodies, the blood, the absolute insanity of the last 10 minutes, Cassio laughed. Then he crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was fierce, desperate, the kiss of a man who'd just faced death and found life on the other side. Emma dropped the gun, wrapped her arms around him, kissed him back with equal intensity. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Emma whispered, "We're alive." "We're alive," Cassio confirmed. "I weaponized soda." "You weaponized soda? That's going to be a weird story to tell people." "We're not telling anyone." He pressed his forehead to hers. "Emma Hanford, you are the most extraordinary, terrifying, brilliant person I've ever met. You're bleeding on me." "I know. We should probably do something about that." "Probably." Neither of them moved. Below them, Marco's voice crackled over the comms. "Capo, we've secured the warehouse. Luca's people are down or surrendered. You good?" Cassio pressed the comm. "We're good." Luca's neutralized. "Emma's..." He looked at her, his eyes full of something that looked dangerously close to love. "Emma's a goddamn hero. I threw soda cans at a pipe. That's not heroic. That's chaotic." It was perfect. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. "We need to go," Rico said, appearing at the stairs. "NYPD response time in this area is approximately 3 minutes. We have 90 seconds. Cassio helped Emma down the stairs, his arm around her waist, protective even now. They made it to ground level where the team was already moving toward the exits. Luca was zip-tied and semi-conscious, being dragged by Dante. "What happens to him?" Emma asked. "Prison. Federal charges. Trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy. He'll die in a cell." Cassio's voice was cold. "But first, he's going to tell us everyone he was working with, everyone who was part of this." And then, he looked down at Luca with an expression Emma had never seen before, something ancient and unforgiving. "Then we make sure no one ever tries this again." They emerged into the Brooklyn night. The SUVs were waiting, the team loaded in with military efficiency. As they pulled away, Emma looked back at the warehouse scarred with bullets, smoking from the steam explosion, lit by the approaching police lights. "I can't believe that worked," she whispered. "I can." Cassio took her hand. "You're chaos incarnate, Emma. It's your superpower." "My superpower is being clumsy and lucky. Your superpower is seeing solutions no one else sees, using weapons no one else would think of, being brave when everyone else would run." He brought her hand to his lips. "You saved my life tonight. You saved mine first. Multiple times. I think we're even. We're not even close to even." His smile was soft now, vulnerable, "but I'm looking forward to spending a very long time trying to balance the scales." Emma leaned her head on his shoulder, exhausted and exhilarated, and probably in shock but not caring. They'd survived. Against all odds, against all logic, 2 people who should never have met a mafia boss and a clumsy art historian had walked into danger together and walked out alive. That had to count for something. That had to count for everything. "Cassio?" "Yes?" "When you said you were taking me to dinner somewhere normal, I meant it. Can we go tomorrow? Because I'm pretty sure I just aged 10 years in the last hour, and I could really use some comfort food." He laughed, genuine, warm, the sound of a man who'd forgotten how to feel joy and was relearning the language. "Tomorrow, I promise." "And Cassio?" "Yes, amore mio. I love you." The words hung in the air between them, simple, true, terrifying. Cassio's hand tightened on hers. "I love you too, even though you're absolutely insane. Especially because I'm insane. Especially because of that." They drove into the Brooklyn night, toward whatever future they'd just fought for. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be safe. There would be more threats, more danger, more moments where chaos was the only option. But they'd face it together. The Mafia boss and his clumsy, brilliant, impossibly brave Emma. It was the worst partnership anyone had ever suggested. It was also perfect. The safe house was in Westchester, far enough from Manhattan to feel removed from the chaos, close enough to get back quickly if needed. It was smaller than Emma expected. More home than fortress. Warm lighting, comfortable furniture, a fireplace that actually worked. The kind of place where you could almost forget that the person who owned it had just survived a shootout. Almost. Cassio's team had dispersed after confirming the location was secure. Luca was in federal custody. Marco had made some calls to contacts in the FBI who were very interested in testimony about international trafficking operations. The rest of Luca's people were either dead, arrested, or had disappeared into whatever holes criminals crawled into when their plans imploded. It was over. Except it wasn't. Not really. Emma sat on the bathroom counter, watching Cassio wince as he peeled off his shirt. The bulletproof vest had stopped the round, but the impact had left a massive bruise spreading across his chest like a dark storm cloud. "That looks painful," she said quietly. "I've had worse." He dropped the shirt, examined the bruise in the mirror. "Couple of cracked ribs, probably. Nothing critical. You need a hospital. I need you to stop worrying." He turned to face her, his expression soft despite the pain. "Emma, I'm fine. You got shot protecting me. I got shot doing my job, protecting people He stopped, cleared his throat. "Protecting people who matter." Emma slid off the counter, moved into his space. "Let me help." She grabbed the first aid kit Marco had left, pulled out antiseptic and bandages. Her hands shook slightly as she worked, cleaning the minor cuts and scrapes that covered his arms. "You're very gentle," Cassio observed, watching her face. "I'm very stressed. If I'm not gentle, I'll start crying, and I've decided crying would be admitting defeat." Defeat to what? To the universe, to chaos, to the fact that I just participated in a literal gunfight and somehow survived by throwing caffeinated beverages at infrastructure. She pressed gauze against a cut on his forearm with excessive care. "I'm holding it together through sheer force of denial right now." Cassio's hand came up, cupped her face. "Emma, you can fall apart. You've earned it. If I fall apart, I might not stop, so I'm just going to keep pretending this is normal until my brain believes it." She finished bandaging his arm, moved to examine his ribs. "Take a deep breath." He did. Winched. "Definitely cracked. You really should see a doctor." "I have a doctor. He's discreet. He'll be here in the morning." Cassio caught her hands, stilled them. "Emma, stop, please. I'm helping. You're avoiding." He pulled her closer, his voice gentle. "Talk to me. Really talk to me." Emma's carefully constructed composure cracked. "I'm terrified," she whispered. "I keep replaying it. The gunfire, the steam, Luca's face when he—" Her voice broke. "He killed my father, Cassio." He admitted it. "He killed my father because Dad asked too many questions, and tonight I looked him in the eye and—" "You were magnificent. I was lucky. If that pipe hadn't ruptured, if my aim had been worse, if—" Cassio kissed her, soft, slow, grounding. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. "No ifs. We survived. That's all that matters." "Is it? Because tomorrow there will be consequences. Police, FBI, whoever else wants answers. And she laughed, slightly hysterical. "I'm an accessory now. To everything. I helped you. I participated in an armed confrontation. I'm a witness to things that could send both of us to prison. That won't happen. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Cassio stepped back, moved to the window overlooking the property. "He's giving up everyone he worked with, everyone who funded him, every connection to the trafficking operation. In exchange, the FBI is offering witness protection and a reduced sentence. Why would he do that? Because the alternative is dying in prison. Or dying before he gets to prison. Cassio's expression was hard. Luca made enemies. Lots of them. The moment word got out he was in custody, I started getting calls from people who want him dead. He's safer cooperating with the feds than taking his chances with us. Emma processed this. And you? What happens to you when Luca testifies about Pisano Global? The legitimate parts of my business are clean. Aggressively clean. I've spent 5 years making sure of it. He turned to face her. The parts that weren't clean? Those are being shut down, sold off, dissolved, eliminated. By next month, Pisano Global will be exactly what it claims to be, a risk management and consulting firm, nothing more. You're going legitimate. I'm going sane. He crossed back to her, his intensity returning. Emma, tonight when I thought I might lose you when Luca's gun was pointed at you and I couldn't get there fast enough, his voice roughened, I realized something. This life I've been living, this empire I inherited, it's not worth dying for. It's definitely not worth you dying for. Cassio. Let me finish. He took her hands. My father built power through violence. My brother rejected that and died anyway. I tried to find middle ground, keeping the organization intact while making it cleaner, safer, more controlled, but that's not enough. It's never going to be enough. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done. Done with the legacy, done with the darkness, done with pretending I can keep one foot in legitimacy and one foot in crime. His eyes held hers. I want out. Really out. And I want... He hesitated. I want you to help me build something new. Emma's heart hammered. What kind of something? Something legitimate. Something clean. Using everything I know about security, risk assessment, international business, but doing it legally, transparently. His hands tightened on hers. I want to build a company that my brother would have been proud of. That you can work for without compromising your morals. That doesn't require bulletproof vests and weaponized soda cans. Despite everything, Emma smiled. The soda cans were pretty effective though. They were inspired. But I'd prefer not to make them a regular tactical necessity. That's fair. She studied his face, looking for doubt or uncertainty. Found none. You're serious about this. Going completely legitimate. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Except, he pulled her closer, except this. Us. I'm serious about building a future where the most dangerous thing you face is my terrible cooking and questionable taste in movies. You have questionable taste in movies? I like action films, exclusively. I've seen Die Hard 47 times. That's concerning. There are probably many concerning things about me you don't know yet. His smile was soft. But I want you to have time to discover them, without bullets or betrayal. Just normal relationship problems. Who does the dishes? Whose turn is it to pick the restaurant? Whether my obsession with perfect scheduling is endearing or grounds for murder. Definitely grounds for murder. See? This is important information to negotiate early. He grew serious again. Emma, I know this is fast. We've known each other less than 2 weeks. Most of that time you were either breaking things or decoding Renaissance manuscripts. This isn't a normal relationship trajectory. I don't think I'm built for normal. Neither am I. But I'm built for you. He brought her hands to his chest, over his heart. You match my intensity with chaos, my control with unpredictability, my darkness with light. He searched for words. You're the balance I didn't know I needed. Emma felt tears building. Cassio, I'm a mess. I break things. I talk to myself. I make terrible decisions like staying with dangerous mafia bosses instead of running like smart people do. Those terrible decisions saved my life, multiple times. That doesn't mean they weren't terrible. Then make one more terrible decision. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. Stay. Build this future with me. Be my partner in crime, legal crime, paperwork crime, the boring kind of crime that involves LLC filings and tax returns. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. It's not a proposal, not yet. His eyes glinted. When I propose, It'll be proper. Restaurant, ring, possibly flowers if I can figure out what kind you like. You're planning a proposal and we've been dating for..." She checked her imaginary watch, approximately 6 hours of being officially together. "I'm an efficient planner. You're presumptuous. I'm optimistic." He kissed her again, deeper this time. "Say yes, Emma, to building something legitimate, to being partners, to giving me a chance to be someone better than who I was." Emma looked at him, really looked at him, at the bruises and cuts and exhaustion, at the vulnerability in his eyes that he was finally letting her see, at the man who'd spent 5 years punishing himself for his brother's death and was finally, tentatively reaching for something that looked like redemption. "Yes," she said simply. Cassio exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. "Yes? Yes to partners. Yes to legitimate business. Yes to terrible movie taste and scheduling obsessions." She smiled. "Yes to you, Cassio Pisano. All of you. Even the parts you think are too broken to fix. They are broken. Then we'll be broken together. That's allowed." He pulled her into his arms, held her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. "I love you," he murmured into her hair. "Ti amo, mia bella Emma, sei la mia luz. I love you, my beautiful Emma. You are my light. I love you too, even though you're slightly insane." "Slightly? Fine. Very insane. But it works for you." They stood there for a long time, two people who'd survived chaos and danger and impossible odds, just holding each other in the quiet safety of a house that represented everything they were about to build. "Cassio? When you do propose, and I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying if hypothetically you decide to..." "Yes? Maybe don't do it during a crisis. I'd like at least one major life event that doesn't involve bullets or explosions." He laughed against her hair. "Deal. No bullets, no explosions, just romance and possibly mediocre restaurant service." "Perfect." They stayed like that until dawn started filtering through the windows, painting the room in soft gold. Until the adrenaline finally faded and exhaustion took its place. Until the weight of what they'd survived and what they'd chosen became real. And Emma Hanford, who'd stumbled into this job by accident and stayed by choice, realized something crucial. Sometimes the best decisions were the ones that looked terrible on paper. Sometimes the right person was the one you should absolutely run from. Sometimes chaos and control mixed together to create something stronger than either could be alone. They had a long road ahead. Legal battles, business transformations, learning to be normal people who didn't solve problems with violence and Renaissance code breaking. But they'd face it together. The Mafia boss going legitimate, and his clumsy, brilliant, impossibly brave partner. It was the worst idea anyone had ever had. It was also the best. And that was enough. That was everything. 3 months later, the new offices of Romano Hanford Strategic Consulting occupied the 42nd floor of a building in Midtown, far enough from Cassio's old operation to signal change, close enough to the financial district to be taken seriously. Emma stood in what would be her office, staring at the nameplate being installed on the door. Emma Hanford, Vice President, Strategic Acquisitions and Cultural Assets. "Still doesn't feel real," she muttered to herself. "You've been saying that for 3 months, Cassio said from the doorway. Looking unfairly handsome in a charcoal suit that was definitely new and definitely chosen because Emma had mentioned she liked that color on him. "Because it still doesn't feel real. 3 months ago I was a barista who got fired for giving people the wrong coffee. Now I'm a VP with an office that has windows. You were always brilliant, now you just have a title that matches." He crossed the space, handed her an espresso in a to-go cup. "From the cafe downstairs. I checked, it's exactly 71 degrees. You measured the coffee temperature. I have standards. You have problems. I have you. Same thing." He kissed her temple. "Ready for the board meeting?" Emma took a fortifying sip of perfectly temperatured espresso. "As ready as I'll ever be. Are you sure they're going to go for this? They don't have a choice. I own controlling interest, but yes, they'll support it. The math is sound, the optics are perfect, and, he smiled, no one wants to argue with the woman who helped take down a trafficking operation using carbonated beverages. That story is never going to die, is it? Never. I'm having it engraved on your business cards. Please don't. Too late, already ordered. The board meeting was in Conference Room A, the largest one, with a view of the Empire State Building and furniture that managed to be both professional and not aggressively intimidating. The board members were already assembled, 6 people who represented legitimate investment interests in the newly restructured company. No more shadowy figures, no more whispered threats. Just normal, boring corporate governance. It was the most beautiful thing Emma had ever seen. Cassio called the meeting to order at exactly 10 a.m., because of course he did. Thank you all for coming. We have 2 items on today's agenda. First, the official announcement of our company restructuring and rebranding. Second, a proposal for a new community initiative. He pulled up a presentation on the large screen. Clean slides, clear data, the kind of professional polish that said, "We are a legitimate business, and we have the spreadsheets to prove it." Romano Hanford Strategic Consulting is now fully operational. All legacy operations have been dissolved. Our focus is risk assessment, cultural asset evaluation, and international business consulting. We currently have 12 clients, all fully vetted, all operating within legal parameters. One of the board members, a woman named Patricia, who reminded Emma of a very intelligent hawk, raised her hand. "What about the federal investigation?" Resolved. Luca Martinelli's testimony led to 17 arrests across 3 countries. None of those arrests implicated Romano Hanford or its principals. The FBI has closed its investigation into our operations. Cassio's voice was steady. "We're clean." Another board member, James, leaned forward. "And the reputation management? The press has been handled," Emma interjected, finding her voice. "We've positioned the company as victims of an internal betrayal that we helped expose. The narrative is responsible business leadership catching and reporting criminal activity. We're the heroes of this story." Patricia smiled. "Clever. Thank you. I learned from watching too many true crime documentaries." That got a few laughs. Emma was learning that board meetings were 90% boring data and 10% knowing when to break tension with humor. "Which brings us to our second agenda item," Cassio said, clicking to the next slide. "The Hanford Creative Arts Endowment." Emma's heart squeezed. They'd worked on this proposal together for weeks, refining it, perfecting it, making sure it honored both her father's memory and her own chaotic journey. "We're proposing a $10 million endowment to fund arts education programs in New York City public schools," Cassio continued, "specifically targeting students who are—" He glanced at Emma with a soft smile. "Unconventional learners, students who don't fit traditional academic molds, students who might be clumsy or scattered or talk to themselves, but who have brilliant, creative minds." Emma took over. "The program will provide scholarships, mentorship, and career placement assistance. We'll partner with museums, galleries, and cultural institutions to create internship opportunities. The goal is to ensure that students like me, students who love learning but don't excel in traditional environments, have pathways to meaningful careers." "Why arts specifically?" Patricia asked. "Because arts education is always the first thing cut from school budgets. Because creative thinking is what allowed me to decode Renaissance trade routes and recognize patterns that traditional analysts missed." Emma's voice grew stronger. "Because the skills you learn studying art history, pattern recognition, cultural analysis, attention to detail, are exactly the skills needed in modern risk assessment and strategic consulting. We want to train the next generation of unconventional thinkers." James nodded slowly. "It's good PR. Shows community investment, social responsibility." "It's more than PR," Cassio said quietly. "It's personal. Emma lost her father to violence connected to the world I used to operate in. This endowment honors his memory as an investigative journalist who fought for truth. It also ensures that brilliant students don't have to choose between their education and financial survival. The room was quiet. Then Patricia said, "I vote yes." "Seconded," James added. The vote was unanimous. Emma felt tears building and blinked them back furiously. "Thank you, all of you. This means," her voice cracked, "this means everything." "There's one more thing," Cassio said. He clicked to a final slide. It was a photo of the repaired Venetian inkwell, now displayed in a glass case in the office lobby. Beneath it, a small plaque. "Sometimes the best things in life come from beautiful accidents. In memory of Marco Pisano and Michael Hanford." Emma's careful composure shattered. Tears spilled over. Cassio was beside her instantly, his hand finding hers under the table. "Meeting adjourned," he said firmly. "Thank you all for your support." The board members filed out tactfully, leaving Emma and Cassio alone in the conference room. "You didn't tell me about the plaque," Emma managed through tears. "I wanted it to be a surprise." He pulled her into his arms. "Your father deserves to be remembered. So does Marco. They both believed in truth and integrity. This company, what we're building, it's for them. Cassio, I have one more surprise." He pulled back, reached into his pocket, and extracted a small velvet box. Emma's heart stopped. "You said no proposals during crises." "This isn't a crisis. This is the opposite of a crisis." He opened the box. The ring was perfect. Simple, elegant, with a single diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows across the conference table. Engraved on the band in tiny letters, "La mia bella disastro." "My beautiful disaster." "Emma Hanford," Cassio said, his voice rough with emotion. "3 months ago you walked into my life and broke my favorite antique. You decoded secret messages, survived a gunfight, weaponized soda, and somehow made me believe I could be better than my father. You brought chaos into my carefully controlled world and turned it into something beautiful. Cassio, you're brilliant, clumsy, sarcastic, brave, and absolutely impossible. You talk to yourself, you trip over nothing, you make decisions that should get you killed but somehow work out perfectly." He smiled. "You're everything I didn't know I needed. Everything I don't deserve. And I'm asking you, begging you to marry me, to be my partner in every sense of the word, to build this future together." Emma's hands were shaking. "You put my beautiful disaster on the ring. It's accurate. It's perfect." She laughed through tears. "Yes. Obviously, yes. How could I possibly say no to a man who measures coffee temperature and proposes in conference rooms? You could very easily say no. You'd be smart to say no. Lucky for you, I make terrible decisions." She held out her hand. "Put the ring on before I change my mind." He did, his hands steady despite the emotion in his eyes. The ring fit perfectly. Of course it did. Cassio Pisano didn't do anything unless it was perfect. "I love you," he said simply. "I love you too, even though you're controlling and intense and probably have 15 backup plans for everything." 17 backup plans. That's excessive. That's preparation. He pulled her close, kissed her with the kind of passion that made her forget they were in a corporate conference room. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "Ready to change the world, amore mio? With you? Always." 6 months later, the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the first Hanford Creative Arts Center was held at a public high school in the Bronx. The press was there. The mayor was there. Hundreds of students and teachers filled the newly renovated arts wing. Emma stood at the podium, looking out at faces that reminded her of her younger self, creative, passionate, not quite fitting the mold. "My father used to tell me that art wasn't just about beauty, it was about truth. About seeing the world clearly, and having the courage to show others what you saw." Her voice carried across the crowd. "I didn't understand that until I lost him." Until I had to use everything he taught me about observation, about analysis, about seeing patterns where others saw chaos to fight for justice. She looked at Cassio, standing off to the side, watching her with undisguised pride. This center is for everyone who's ever been told they're too scattered, too clumsy, too different. For everyone who sees the world in colors and patterns instead of numbers and spreadsheets. For everyone who talks to themselves and breaks things and takes the long way around to brilliant conclusions. She smiled. You're not broken. You're not wrong. You're exactly what the world needs. You just need someone to believe in you. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, Emma and Cassio stood in the new art studio, watching students explore the space easels, pottery wheels, digital design stations, all funded by the endowment. All opportunities that wouldn't have existed otherwise. We did this, Emma said quietly. You did this. I just wrote the checks. You did more than that. You changed. You chose truth over power. You chose light over darkness. She leaned into him. You chose me. Best decision I ever made. He kissed the top of her head. Well, second best. The best decision was not firing you when you destroyed my conference room. I saved the inkwell. You saved everything. They stood together, watching creative chaos unfold, students laughing, creating, being brilliantly, messily themselves. Think we're going to be okay? Emma asked. I know we are. Cassio's arm tightened around her waist. We survived bullets and betrayal. We can survive anything. Even wedding planning? Even that. Though I'm hiring a professional planner because the thought of you organizing seating charts terrifies me. That's fair. I'd probably seat your mother next to someone's mortal enemy by accident. Exactly. Emma looked at her ring, then at the students, then at the man who'd become her partner, in every sense of the word. Thank you, she said, for seeing me, for believing in me, for building this with me. Thank you for breaking my inkwell, for speaking Sicilian, for throwing soda cans at steam pipes. Cassio turned her to face him. Thank you for being my beautiful disaster. Always. They kissed, surrounded by the sound of creativity and hope and second chances. The Mafia boss who'd gone legitimate and his clumsy, brilliant wife. The partnership no one saw coming. The love story that started with shattered glass and ended with something beautiful. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was more than enough. That was everything. 1 year later, the New York Times business section featured a full-page article, From Chaos to Clarity, How Romano Hanford Strategic Consulting Became the Industry Leader in Cultural Risk Assessment, by Sarah Mitchell. When Emma Hanford broke a priceless antique during her job interview with Cassio Pisano, neither could have predicted they'd revolutionize an entire industry. Today, Romano Hanford Strategic Consulting is the most sought-after firm for companies navigating complex international cultural landscapes. Emma read the article on her iPad. Sitting in their shared office, the one with 2 desks positioned back-to-back, so they could work together without actually facing each other, because that was still too distracting. We made the Times, she called over her shoulder. I know. I've already had 6 new client inquiries this morning. Cassio's voice was distracted, focused. Also, your mother called. She wants to know if we're coming to Sunday dinner. Tell her yes, but warn her I'm bringing that terrible wine you hate so you have to drink it while being polite. That's cruel. That's marriage. Fair point. Emma smiled, turned back to her work authenticating a collection of Renaissance manuscripts for a museum in Florence, the kind of work she'd dreamed of doing before life got complicated. Except now life was perfectly, beautifully complicated in all the best ways. Emma? I love you. I love you too, even though you're annoying. Especially because I'm annoying. Especially because of that. Outside, Manhattan hummed with its usual chaos. Inside, 2 people who'd found each other through impossible odds worked side by side, creating something legitimate, something meaningful, something that honored the people they'd lost and the future they'd chosen. It was imperfect, messy, sometimes terrifying. it was also home. And Emma Hanford Pisano, VP of Strategic Acquisitions and Professional Beautiful Disaster, wouldn't change a single clumsy, chaotic moment of it. Not for anything in the world.